Hey guys, welcome back to the show. In today's episode, I interview Joe Cleary, who is the head coach at Wayne State College in Nebraska. In this episode, we talk about what he looks for in a player, both on and off the field, the hardest part about being a college athlete, the key indicators that he looks for when determining whether or not a player will be successful in his program, and much, much more. I first met Joe when he ordered She the Confident for his team, which he references in the podcast a few times. So if you're a coach listening and you want to order books for your team, you can send me a message via email, on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and I would love to hook your team up with their own copies. All right, get ready to take notes because this is a good one. Enjoy. Hey, Joe, thanks for finding the time to be on today's show. I know you have a ton of player meetings going on today, so I appreciate you taking the time to squeeze us in today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Cool. So before we get started talking college soccer and all that, just tell my listeners a little bit more about you and what you do and kind of where you come from and all that.
Yeah, so I'm the head coach at Wayne State College in Nebraska. We're a Division II school that competes in the Northern Sun Conference, which is a pretty strong soccer conference in our country. I'm originally from North Dakota, which is not usually known for soccer, but lucky enough to have a small group of people there in that environment that really fostered like my love for soccer, but also really fostered my love for coaching soccer. And I bounced around a couple places, been at the Division I level for a little bit, been at the Division III level for a little bit. But I've always really liked the Division II level. It's always been my favorite. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my journey. And I enjoy coaching. I enjoy all aspects of coaching, from on the field stuff to off the field stuff.
Awesome. What do you like more about the Division II level than say Division I or III?
I just think it's the perfect balance. I think there's still the expectation. I think Division III there are some great Division III schools that have like high academic standards. Obviously, there's Division I schools that have high academic standards as well. But it would be hard for me to coach in Division III because I wouldn't get to see my players as often and train them as often as I'd want to. Right. And then Division I mean, I loved. I was at the University of Wyoming. It was a great experience. It's helped me get other jobs since then. But it's just very, very soccer focused, and it's a different type of athlete, both in athletically, but also in kind of what their focuses are at times too. So right. I just like the balance of Division II offers, I guess, is the best way to say it.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And you said you were at Wyoming, right?
Yep.
When were you there?
2012. 2012, I think. Yeah, 2012.
Okay,
fall of 2012.
Because I went to Utah State.
You're at Utah State, right?
So I was done in 2013. So I probably
okay.
Against your girls at one
point
or another.
Yeah, at some point or another. Yeah, I was a part of the first year of Coach Quadrado's coaching staff at Wyoming. So,
yeah, I actually never had to go to Laramie, though. I say had to go. I never had to go to Laramie, though, because I think when we did go there, that's when I was injured.
So. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the area around Laramie is beautiful. It's not very much fun to run around in 7,200 feet. I know that from experience, just going for runs up there.
I know, right? So. Yeah, I mean, Utah's not much better, but still a little bit better. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I know you kind of mentioned just now, like you love the on the field and off the field stuff, that comes along with coaching. But what is like your favorite, if you had to narrow it down to like your two favorite things that you love about coaching your girls specifically, what would it be?
Coaching my players specifically, I just like the difference. I just like coaching the different personalities that we have. Mm-hmm. We just have a wide array of people, so they like enjoy a wide array of things. Mm-hmm. So it's fun enjoying those wide array of things with them and like their different senses of humor. And then I also think this group, just because of how we are as an institution and how we are as a soccer program, like we can bring in good players as freshmen, but they're not finished products. So like they have to evolve, they have to grow. And so it's really fun to see the growth of like all of our players have to grow to be something that we need them to be successful. And so like I have just in being here for 5 years, I have, a dozen or so stories of girls that have been, maybe didn't start out where they wanted to as freshmen, but then have become like big time for us in their careers, and then also grew as people too, which is fun to see as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that kind of leads me into my next question is, like, when you're out recruiting, and I don't know how much recruiting you do or your assistants.
Oh yeah, a lot.
But yeah, I mean, I assume especially at the D2 level, but what are like if you had to say the top few things that you look for when you're recruiting a player, number one, on the field, like what skills do you look for? What are you watching when you're watching them play? And then what are you looking for off the field type stuff?
On the field, the number one thing that I look for, and I can't say this player's name because she's not signed to the Division I school yet, but it's a player down in Omaha who I've gotten the chance, lucky enough to watch play. And she's committed to the Huskers, I believe. But I've gotten to watch her play. She has grown. I've gotten to train her at camps and stuff. And the one thing that I just love about her is she competes all the time. Like, she competed super hard when she was playing high school or club. She competed really hard in camp. She competed in, when I came down and trained their team, she was already committed, and it didn't matter that I was training her team and I wasn't going to be her coach. She still competed. So like, just an awesome competitor. So I look for that because that's important to me. And then we look for, can they do it athletically for that level that we're looking for? And maybe not right away, but do they have the ability to get there, or some of the tools to get there?
Right.
Or do they have, like, if we're looking for a center back, or is it a center back that would play well next to a center back that we already have?
True.
Because that, I mean, you don't have to be the perfect physical specimen, I think, to play collegiate soccer. You just have to find the right fit and the right team. So we try and do that. Like, that's why I try and do it, is I try and envision how they would fit next to the players we currently have.
Yeah.
Committed, or the players that are currently on our team. And then I guess the last on the field thing I look for is just well-rounded skills. They don't have to be the best dribbler, the best passer, the best striker of the ball, but I want them to be able to do everything at some sort of level that they could grow off of. Because that means they all have a base of something that they can improve off of. Off the field, I look, academics is huge. We honestly don't recruit players at Wayne State, out-of-state kids that are below a 3.2 GPA. And the reason because is because if you have a 3.25 GPA or higher, you get in-state tuition at Wayne State.
Gotcha.
So for a lot of students, that's like a $5,000 academic scholarship off the top. And, I know that sounds like a really hard line to draw, but in order to stretch our dollar and to give them the best deal possible for school, like, we have to recruit kids who do well in school. So there's a couple, I mean, that's not the only metric. It can be like top half of their class, or a 21 or 22 on their ACT. So it's a couple of those metrics, but we do really look at grades. And then I do like to see I do like to hear that kids enjoy stuff other than soccer. I mean, I enjoy things other than soccer, so I hope that they do too. And so I always ask those questions during the recruiting process, like other sports or activities, or even just hobbies that they like. So
that's awesome, because I don't think a lot of people would ever think that a college coach would like care about something like that. But but I think it's important too, like, especially being a multi-sport athlete. I think that that's really important for athletic development, and just like not being burnt out all the time. And so I think that's
awesome. And we like some of our current players who are dealing with some injuries right now, or not even injuries, but dealing with some issues related to your performance, like some tendonitis issues, like those are born from kids who only played soccer for the last 8 years and never took breaks either, like never were periodized properly throughout their training. So it's like, I like, for example, basketball and hockey are two of my favorite sports outside of soccer. So like, when one of our 2021s who's committed to us, she plays basketball. So I went down and watched her play basketball, because I don't mind going to watch basketball, and it's fun seeing them compete or do something else that's not soccer.
Right.
Because we watch them play soccer so much.
Yeah. I know, it gets old after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. So what, like, okay, this is kind of a loaded question, But like when
Mhm.
when a player first comes to campus, so let's say it's like their first week, and you guys do 2-a-days during like fall camp.
We didn't. This is the first year we didn't do 2-a-days, actually.
Okay, so whatever it is, 2-a-days,
Yeah.
1-a-days,
Yeah.
whatever it is, like
Yep.
your first week of camp, like what are some key indicators that you look for in one of your players that will kind of let you know, like, hey, I think they're going to be super successful, or they might like really struggle. Like, is there any indicators that you can kind of
It,
see like where their path is going to take them?
that's like an awesome question, and it's something that I've started talking about in our recruiting process with the players and parents, but also with our current players. Just having been here now for 5 years and seeing individuals that don't make it in our program,
Mm-hmm.
um, or maybe haven't made it in programs I've been at the past, I've started to be able to identify individuals that are going to struggle. And so like I don't have any problem sharing those because I think it's stuff that's very controllable for them.
Yeah.
um, the first one is kind of a standard of fitness.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a fitness test, and I don't it's not even like there is a pass fail number,
Yeah.
but it's not but there's nothing that comes off of that. I basically say, if you don't run if you don't aren't at the fitness standard, then your first question, if you're not happy with your role, you can kind of go back to that right away.
Yeah, sure.
So if someone's way below the fitness standard without a kind of a reason, that's a little bit of a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually freshmen are so scared that they're not going to be at the standard that they're super fit. So
Exactly. That's what happened to me. Freshman year, super fit. After that, I was like, yikes.
and then like one thing that I'm a big believer in, and we've kind of we use this like with your book, is I'm a big believer in, if you're going to be a member of the team, you have to be transparent. Like that's not just the players, it's the coaching staff too. So if you're not willing to be transparent, and I know it's tough, but share your feelings and share your emotions, and like be okay with saying like, this didn't make me feel good, or
Mm-hmm.
like I struggle with this. If you're not, you don't have to be open with your whole team, but if you're not able to do that with like the coaching staff or anyone on
Yeah.
the team, like that's a pretty big red flag, because it means you're not connecting well with the group.
Yeah.
And that's hard to tell in the first week, but you can see it
Right.
early when kids start to struggle. And then probably not the first week necessarily, but the third biggest one is someone who doesn't show improvement academically. So like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to say someone who's good academically, because I have some girls who are so smart in our program, and
Yeah.
then I have some ladies who work really, really hard to get a 3.0, and that's okay too. But to just see their, like, if you don't see a drive or determination in on the academic side, like a care to
Yeah.
do that, those are kind of my three big things that like within the first month we can kind of see, and you can kind of predict like, are they going to make it? And usually there's players who will have one, and then they'll work on it and they'll fix it. But the
Mm-hmm.
players that have multiple ones are usually the ones that don't end
Yeah.
up panning out.
And I
So
love that, like, one of them was purely physical, right? One of them was more like psychosocial, and the other one's academics. And that's just the
yeah,
true testament that if you want to be successful at the college level, it doesn't you if you have crappy grades, crappy attitude, you're a bad teammate and you're the best player, you're not going to be successful.
correct. Yep. Yep.
Right. And so like I know the importance of, why is it so important? You said the second thing, being open and transparent with teammates. Like, why does that matter so much in college as opposed to maybe just like a club level?
Because you spend so much time with them, and a lot of them are walking the same path as you in different ways. And it's also such an interesting time of life. I always tell our players, I think the hardest part for me is like, I never was an 18 to 22-year-old college women's soccer player. So like I can't relate to everything that they're going through.
Yeah.
But they have 25 other teammates who can. And if you're not willing to be transparent and honest with them, you know, like I don't you're going to struggle because you're going to hold everything inside, and I feel like that's just a weight on you,
Mm-hmm.
to that. I mean, it's even stuff that's not soccer related. I mean, and I always try and encourage those conversations to happen. I mean, unfortunately, we have several players on our team who are from split homes,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that can cause some issues. But like,
Yeah.
it helps if you have someone to talk to about it who has, now, like, I have experience with that, so that's one thing I can talk about with them. But there's other issues that I can listen to, but I can't understand or relate, and their teammates can, and sometimes they can be the most helpful ones out of anyone. So.
Yeah, that's the thing about college soccer is it really is like it's just such a family, especially if you recruit from players from that come from far away from home. Like for example, my two different experiences at VCU and Virginia. I went from Utah to Virginia, and it was like so much of a family because people were like that's all we had. We couldn't go home to visit our family. It's like that was your family, right? And then when I was at Utah State, most of us were local, so we could go off and go visit our family. It's like it wasn't as tight knit at the beginning. It did get there later, but it's just so different than, club or high school soccer because you literally are living every part of your life with your teammates. Your academics, you probably have classes with them. You're doing off the field stuff with them. You're obviously doing way more on the field stuff with your teammates.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always say it's like a family in the good and the bad ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the oldest of four. Um, I've spent road trips with my brothers and sister in a van, and eventually you want to like, throw them out the van, and like we get to that point with our team. Like our girls really love each other, but
Mhm.
you know, after spending the last I don't know 6 weeks training indoors and waking up early the last 5 days out of the week, like a lot of our individual meetings have ended with like, yeah, I need a little bit of time away from my teammates right now,
Yeah.
and then they'll get a week away and then they'll be, oh, I missed you, and like ready to go back at it again. But like it's like a family in that regard too. You spend so much time with each other that you start to pick up on the little annoying habits that they might have that drive you
Yeah.
insane. So
I remember like when we would go on away trips on like a long away trip, by the end of it, on the bus ride there, you guys are jazzed. It's like everyone's loving each other. And then on the bus ride home, it's like, oh, just put your headphones in. You just need to get away from them. You need to go hang out with
yeah,
your friends that
yeah.
aren't like on your team. So yeah, it totally is like a family in the good and the bad. But that's honestly, at least it was my favorite part about playing college soccer.
Yeah, our girls have a ton of fun on the road trips, and just it's a family environment for sure in our program, and that's a testament to them, you know, just
Yeah.
being able to want to do that. So
Right. Yeah. So, like for me, playing college soccer was one of the best experiences I ever had, but also it was some of the hardest times that I had. Right. And that's true for probably a lot of college players. So, from your perspective as a coach, what do you think is the hardest part of playing college soccer for female athletes, both mentally
yeah,
and
I think
physically?
I think that was what we got from your book, or that's what like our girls loved about your introduction, is like I think they instantly related because they're like,
Mhm.
this sounds like me, or this sounds like my teammate, when you told your story. um, I think the hardest part of being a female college athlete is that you you get def- you get defined as a women's soccer player, and so then once you're defined as that, there are things that happen that change that, whether that's an injury or um, maybe you're not playing as much, um, you know, uh, and then like that can really hurt the definition of who you are as a person if that's who you
Mhm.
define yourself as, and like that can be pretty. I mean, that can be pretty crushing. I mean, it's crushing for coaches, I think, sometimes too, but
Yeah.
like that can be really hard if everything you're about is being a women's soccer player, being a part of the women's soccer team, and then all of a sudden um, something affects that, whether it's family, friends, injury, or otherwise. Like that can be super difficult to deal with and get past. So
Yeah. I know, like for me, I had injuries all throughout my career, and I played soccer my whole life. So I had that issue too, in the sense that that's like my identity. And it still kind of is because I'm still in the game. And
yeah,
now my identity is I'm a soccer coach, right? So I didn't really have to do that whole transition of who am I? Because I kind of I'm in the same field, right?
it, yeah.
Yeah.
And we try and talk about that a little bit too, in terms of you know your role as a member of this team isn't just solely based on your athletic capabilities, but also on what you bring to the team, and who you are. So
Hmm.
like whether you had a good practice or a bad practice is going to be defined as a lot more than just if you kicked the ball in the back of the net or if you completed all your passes. It's
Yeah.
just like um, I would be willing to imagine that most of the players who have been coached by me To be honest, most of the players who've been coached by me, who liked being coached by me, probably weren't like, yeah, Joe's a tactical genius, or Joe's training sessions are so good. I don't think that's why players like playing for me. So
Yeah, I would feel the same way for sure.
yeah, yeah.
So I kind of want to get into like I guess the demands of being a college athlete, as far as the physical demands and like the time management demands. So just talk to like, what can, like, say you got a high school player coming in, like what can they do to prepare for the physical demands and just the freedom, I guess, of being a college soccer player as opposed to living at home and kind of managing everything?
Yeah, I think the as far as the physical demands go, I think you have to it's going to sound weird, but you have to get into a routine. And that includes like being in charge of your own breakfast, like not eating breakfast when mom and dad say, but eating breakfast when like you're supposed to eat breakfast, and trying to eat something that's the same or similar or at the same time, because you're going to be asked to do that in college. And maybe it's not the same time on Monday through Friday, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday it's the same time, and Tuesday, Thursday it's the same time.
Right.
And then as far as physical demands, I think also is can you take a break? In high school, sometimes kids just, I mean, you play, if you're not playing DA, so if you're playing high school and club soccer, like you could potentially play. I mean, the kids in the young women in Nebraska play club soccer from like August or September through February, and then they jump into high school soccer March through May, and it's like,
Yeah.
and then they go back into club soccer if they make state cup or go into showcases in the summer. It's like, okay, you just played 11 months of soccer. Like you don't play 11 months of soccer collegiately.
Right.
So like learning like what exactly the physical demands are, is something that I think is important. And then also understanding that playing 90 minutes in a showcase game is not the same as playing 90 minutes in a collegiate game at any level. I don't care if it's junior college, NAIA, D3, D2, D1, like it's just different. So
Talk more about why it's so different.
the physicality is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Like that was my biggest eye opener when I went to Wyoming as the volunteer assistant, and I jumped in and played with the team, and I'm like, man, they are not very nice. Like, like slide tackles and shirt pulls and like on me as their coach. And it was like, and then watching them play, at the next level, I mean, like it's super physical, and it's go, go, go.
Yeah.
Especially like in the Mountain West, for example. I know it's bigger now, but in 2013, 2014, that there was only 7 or 8 teams or 9 teams. So like,
Right.
and you only play each team once, and it's like every game matters so much. Like it's
Yeah.
like if you lose 2 games in a row, you might not be going to the conference tournament.
Yeah.
And like that's a lot of college conferences and a lot of college experiences. So it's like the demands are higher, and also everyone's so everyone's so athletic. Like
Right.
everyone's athletic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously you're taking the best of the best and putting them
yep.
onto a field together. And yeah, like you said, the physicality is so much higher. The speed of play is insane. And just like the pressure, which I mean pressure in a good way, just like you said, like every game means so much, right? So it's like every game you literally are fighting like to the death to get a goal or to save a goal. It's just like so much more is on the line, I guess, especially in those conferences, like you said, the Mountain West, where it's one game and that game could mean you go to the playoffs or you don't go.
Yeah, and I mean the Northern Sun's a different type of beast because we have 16 teams and we play each team once. So it's like, but you can go on a little bit of a skid, but then you're like, all right, if you do that, then you better be ready to win some games in a row at the end of the season. Otherwise, you're going to be on the outside looking in. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I get this question a lot, and it's kind of more of a recruiting question, but a lot of parents will ask me like, how important is it that my daughter plays DA? Like, is that something and I always say like, well, it can't hurt your chances, right? But I want to hear from you, like how important is it that a player plays DA as opposed to, just like a high level club team that's going to showcases and stuff?
that's a really good question. And I'm trying to make sure I'm political about this a little bit when I
Don't worry
answer.
about it.
No, because we have a DA club in Omaha, we have an ECNL club in Omaha. We recruit from both. I think the DA environment's really cool. I think the idea behind it is cool. I don't think it's for everyone. I think that some people want to play high school soccer, and that's great. And high school soccer offers some unique opportunities that you don't get in club. It also depends on what level you want to play at.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking to play Division II, I don't think you have to play DA. Some of our best players in our conference are not DA or ECNL players. But if you want to play at the highest level and you want to experience the highest competition, you probably do have to play at the DA and ECNL levels. Like as far as experiencing the highest competition and getting the most exposure, you have to play at those levels because that's where the highest competition and the highest exposure is, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I also think that obviously I think it's good that I think there's something to be said about the DA having coaching requirements. I know it kind of makes people nervous because it can X some good coaches out of it, but I also think it increases the level of coaching and also the understanding of what is good for players' development, you know? Like the load management put on them is good, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and when I like ECNL and DA, that wasn't around when I was playing. It happened a few years after. So to be honest, I don't know a ton about it. So it's good to hear from a college coach like your perspective, and that's kind of the answer I give. But yeah.
And to be honest, it's hard. It's hard for us at Wayne State. It's hard for us to recruit players who play in the DA and the ECNL because they get such good exposure. One. Two, they have maybe higher goals than college in the corner of Northeast Nebraska, which is okay. But three, I mean, the cost to play in those programs can be significant because of travel and fees and we're not offering, you know, not just us, but there's a lot of colleges that aren't offering, you know, full ride scholarships. So I always tell parents that if you're putting your player in for like a chance to get experience and for her to play at the highest level possible, then that's good. But if you're putting someone in DA or ECNL with the shot of getting a really good scholarship, you're probably going to be disappointed because even if your daughter is good enough to play at the Division I level, she may only receive a scholarship that covers her books.
Yeah.
And she's still going to get an awesome opportunity, and it's still great to be on scholarship. Like that's still a very big compliment, and she's still a very good player, but also understanding that the net gain versus net loss or, you know, whatever financially is probably not going to be in the green, but the opportunity and the experience is could be in the green. So I think that's what you have to weigh too.
Yeah. So I know like a lot of the girls that listen to this show, like there's some that are playing at a high level, but I think more of them are playing, you know, not at the ECNL level, not at the NPL level, not at the DA level. Like they're just playing for, you know, middle of the road club teams, but they want to play college soccer. So what can they do? Like what is the most important things that they need to do in order to be seen by a D2, D3 school?
I think you need to research schools and contact coaches with personalized emails. I think copy and paste emails get found out real quick, especially when you make a mistake. Like you make a mistake, it's like, oh, I'm not Coach Johnson. Even if you get everything else right, it's like, yeah, you clearly just are sending this out. I think getting film of you is important. And then picking and choosing, like if your team's going to showcases, like figuring out which schools fit you and really like, you know, ask them to come watch you. I mean, typically every girl that asks me to watch them at a showcase, I try and watch them just at least for a half, just because like, who knows, they could be someone that could help us. And then finding camps and not just necessarily going to every camp, but picking and choosing. And then even if that coach isn't right for you or you're not right for that coach, is asking them for recommendations or feedback. As far as like, okay, if I'm not good enough to play, like, do you have someone who you know I could play for, you know, at a different level or at a different school? You know, I always like giving those suggestions because I think if someone comes to a camp and this is a little bit different D2 versus maybe, the bigger D1 schools that have camps. But if someone comes to our camp, we have 45 to 50 girls per camp. If someone comes to our camp, I guess I owe them at least enough to give them some feedback and possibly point them in a direction that they could go to play, because they want to play, obviously.
Right.
So even if it's not at Wayne State.
Yeah, and I think a lot of players make that mistake when they go to ID camps of, number one, not even emailing the coach before, but not asking for feedback. Like, they're just scared, and I totally get it. But if you're going to go, at least bare minimum, get some feedback so you can get better, right?
Yeah, because especially at I still go work University of Wyoming's camp, and so you might not be able to get feedback from the Wyoming coach, but I coach a team out at a camp team out at the Wyoming camp. I do get a lot of players who ask me for their feedback, and a lot of the times is like, do you think I could play at the University of Wyoming? And so sometimes I have to be the bad guy when it's like, clearly they can't, or not at that level. But then I also try and help them find the level that they can play at.
Yeah. And I guess that's always a hard thing for me. When players that I know they can't play at the D1 level, like, how do you talk to a player, and how do you still motivate a player that, hey, you can still go play, but it's probably not going to be at UCLA,
Yeah. I mean, I always point to when I'm recruiting to our conference, and, people are wondering what the level is, I always point to the best teams in our conference. And I'm not worried about that player leaving to go play for that best team. I'm just saying, like, hey, Minnesota State Mankato is a great institution and a great program. Friends with their coaches. They were, I think, an Elite Eight team this year. They consistently play Division I opponents in the spring and consistently do very, very well against them. So we play against players who are top quality, so you can still get a top quality experience from going to a Division II school. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of Division II coaches are very good, or D3 coaches are very good. And if you want that Division I background, I mean, I only had a year at the University of Wyoming, but my assistant spent several years at the Division I background, and our strength coach came from the Division I background. So it's like, if you're a motivated soccer player, we can help get you to where you want to be at any school. Any school can do that if you have the right coaching staff and it's the right fit. So that's how I would motivate them, I guess, is finding that right fit and making a bigger impact. Like, go be an All-American at the Division II level. I mean, that pulls just as much weight as playing as a Division I player. So.
There you go. Yeah, just like find the right fit, make a bigger impact. I love that. That's what I think a lot of players need to think about when they're going through this process a little bit more. All right, last question for you. If you could leave my listeners with one piece, so a listener that wants to play college soccer, if you could leave them with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh, that's good. I don't want to be cliche and say, like, get good grades, because I think every coach does that. I think the greatest part, while we have some deficiencies in women's soccer in terms of the support that the top levels receive in our country, the greatest part about women's soccer in our country is that there are so many programs in our country. I mean, I don't even know the exact number, but there's over 300 Division I programs. There's probably just under 300 Division II programs, hundreds of couple NAI, and that's in the junior, which can routes that level. Not about when you're senior. Piece is if you play, don't limit you want to play. Have an idea of where to go, be into new channels or something, because there's so many programs. It's so disheartening to hear when a player doesn't get the looks from their number one school, and they just are like, I'm not going to play then. And it's like, there's a dozen schools that would be climbing all over themselves to have you play for them. And I think that's the important thing. And there's a bunch of great coaches out there too. Like, maybe you don't get to play for your favorite coach, but you get to play for a pretty good coach as well. So I just think that's my number one advice. If you want to play, like play, because there's an opportunity everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. There's thousands of opportunities. You just have to go find them. You just have to work for it.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right.
Yeah.
So where can people connect with you, connect with your program more, learn more about you guys?
We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wayne State Soccer, WAYNEST Soccer. We do a lot of social media content. I lose bets, so I have to dance in TikToks with my players. So,
oh gosh.
yeah, yep. And then my Twitter is @ Joe Cleary. So, and
Awesome.
I post soccer stuff and then pictures of my dog. So
that's all you need in life is soccer and dogs, right?
Yeah.
Those are the two most important things. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
I know it's going to provide tons of value for, players, parents, and even coaches. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me.